Hey guys, how's it going? I'm the Wookie, and today I'm going to be doing a video kind of talking about one of the videos I saw posted by Undoomed, but it was between him and Sargon discussing politics. The video is actually called Sargon and I Discuss Politics and Sargonism, in quotes. So I'd like to tear apart a couple of of Sargon, primarily, his points or opinions he kind of puts out there. I hope it doesn't come across as disrespectful. I do respect other people's opinions. I think that there are some valid points to be seen that I'm sure that I have not become aware of yet, and I'm sure that I could be wrong on some things as well. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think of this video below, and I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the first piece right here.
It costs somewhere between like £12,000 and £15,000 to set up a bookstore.
Right.
On this calculator, but the bookstore wouldn't be profitable because people would go to a mall, a giant mega mall thing, where they can sell books at half the fucking price or whatever it is, and the small businesses just can't outcompete on these things. The market has absorbed the ability for people to really edge their way in. And okay, you're thinking, well, innovation, but there's only so much innovation you can practically do. Most people aren't that innovative, so it's kind of, and yes, I went through and it's about 12 grand. Man, 12 grand to someone who is working on minimum wage is an unbelievable amount of money they will never see in their lifetime.
So as you guys could hear in that previous clip, that was Sargon talking about how it's very difficult for small business owners to actually make it and be able to start a business in a modern economic climate. But he chose some of the worst examples I could have possibly even thought of, like a bookstore. Really, you want people to start a small bookstore who are already competing against these massive chains who have, number one, they have the advantage because of the quantity of supply that they have, and there's just a humongous range of books out there, and the more you can carry, the more of a chance when someone goes into your store, you're actually going to have the book they're looking for. Second of all, bookstores are dying. It is not a growing industry. There's so many other things that are taking over that, coming to take their places. All these Kindles, all these book reading apps. I mean, just on your phone. Why would you bother breaking into a small bookstore? It's impractical. It doesn't make sense. Third of all, he tries to defend how not all people are innovative. Okay, so the people who aren't innovative, why are they trying to start a business? Unless you have a lot of money to spare, or you have an innovative, unique concept, you really don't have to be that smart to have that, just something different. You gotta bring something different to the table, or else you're gonna be the same as everyone else, and you're just gonna be adding another person to the market, and you're making it to where the market's so saturated with these businesses that you can't possibly divvy up the amount of demand that there are for the products and still be able to make a profit for each individual business. Because the amount of supply in bookstores, I mean, it's very steady. It's diminishing right now because the demand is also diminishing, but it's very steady. So why he chose this example for a good business, for a non-innovative person to start up, blows my mind. As far as the minimum wage thing goes, yeah, people who are making minimum wage will probably never have $12,000 to drop on a business. But there are incredible organizations out there like Kickstarter where if you have a good, unique idea, you can bring it to the table, have people invest and start something up. That's what it's for. That's how this works. If you have a shit ton of people bringing the same dumb business to the table every single time, you're going to have a ton of failing businesses who are never going to make a profit because they're all doing the same thing and their overhead costs are way higher than the amount of money they're able to bring in. So it's impractical. It just doesn't make sense.
I wonder what the effect would be if the government if literally every person was entitled to a £50,000 loan from the government. Mm-hmm. Just in general, okay, you can borrow whenever you like in your life, a one-time thing. You can borrow 50 grand from the government. You have to pay it back. It's it can be taken out of your wage packets, the same as tax. In the UK, it's not like in America where you guys have to do your taxes every year. We have a PAYE, pay as you earn system, where basically the company you're working for is responsible for paying your tax.
Right.
But they take it out of your wages, obviously. So it basically means you don't have to bother doing it. It's really convenient. And I tell you what, it's the one thing I miss from being employed by someone else. It's the one thing. I fucking hate doing my taxes.
Yeah, everyone does.
Yeah. I mean, it could literally be like,
All right, so as you guys can tell from that part, that was Sargon saying that he believes that every single person should be entitled to about £50,000 within their lifetime. He did have a few caveats saying that you had to be over the age of 25 and a few other things like that. But overall, it just befounds me how he thinks this is going to be productive to the economy. He says that it would be a debt, so you'd have to pay it back. It would come out with your taxes like normal taxes do, but basically you'd just be paying that off gradually for the rest of your life. Okay, let's think that through for a moment. He did say that many of them would probably blow the money, say on a cruise. That was the example he chose, and stuff like that. And then they'd wind up for the rest of their life trying to pay more money into their taxes, and they'd be making less money overall in order to make up for that stupid mistake where they blew half of their money, or all of their money really, on this cruise, or just as a hypothetical example. His thought process was that it'd inspire people to make businesses and inspire people to do stuff like that. But correct me if I'm wrong, governments already have, we have banks that will lend you money for startups, for starting up a business that they think's going to be successful. Yeah, you got to pay it back. Yeah, there's going to be interest. If you're going to be an innovator and you're going to take a risk, you deserve to have to take responsibility for it as well. They want you to have a stake in the business, so if you get out, you can't just say, hey, I'm bankrupt, I don't have anything, sorry, I'm done. I'm just going to go back to working at Walmart. You need to have something at stake. Otherwise, people are going to wind up taking out money just like this, blowing it on stuff, and then having nothing to show for it and being even more poor for the rest of their life. Not only that, but if you have even less money for the rest of your life and you're already on some sort of government aid, then the government has to come back and aid you even more. So what's the incentive not to go ahead and blow all of the money right off the bat? Why wouldn't you just go ahead and blow it? Sure, there are a few people who want better stuff for their future, but they're the ones who actually go out and get the loans from the bank and they succeed. Or they get the loan from the bank and they fail a few times until they succeed. Most of the people out there who are going to succeed already are. Because they're not going to just let people keep them down. They're going to fight their way to the top. And so many people do it, it's crazy. Once again, it just befuddles me how the whole entitlement to $50,000, it blows my mind how that could possibly work.
It could really... I know, obviously, and I know the economists go, God, you know nothing about the economy. It's like, yeah, I know.
But
all right, guys. So this thing he says right here, it's a little bit bothersome. I mean, I do respect both of your channels. I think you guys, for the most part, you do a little bit of a public service. I think you're a little overly crude and not so factually based as I'd like sometimes, but it's your own way of doing it, and I get that. And I mean, you guys sit here and you debate these social justice warriors and these radical religious zealots and whatnot, and then you turn around and say something like, oh, well, I'm going to state this radical, just way out there political and economic idea, more so economic, and then just drop an I don't know there at the end, like, oh, well, that's my excuse. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm still spreading my opinion. I'm still influencing a large audience. I'm still doing all of these things. But I'm going to try to excuse it with my I don't know right there at the end. So I just really have trouble seeing how that's any different than the people you criticize and you mock so horrendously do. I mean, and once again, I get where you're coming from. I understand you're trying to spread your opinion. You're trying to say what you thought. But I really don't think you gave this one any thought. I think you just slapped it on a sheet of paper, slapped it on a video, slapped it on just really out there for everyone else to see. Come on.
That's my issue, because I mean, just choose a revolution throughout history, and it's always comes through poverty. You've got too many poor people, and frankly, too many extremely wealthy people, and the poor people then hang the wealthy people.
Right.
Because it's economic warfare. They've been fucked their whole lives. They've got nothing to lose. If they've got nothing to lose, then why wouldn't they sign up for the communist revolution? I'd do it. Fuck them. Fuck the rich. If I had spent my whole life struggling for money, and then some rich cunt goes along, you know what? I deserve what I've got, and you deserve to be poor. Fuck off. I'm gonna hang that motherfucker in a second. I can totally understand why these things happen. I genuinely can. I think people who are like, oh, that's terrible. No, dude, just be empathetic. Just look at it from someone else's point of view.
All right, this is pretty radical. He did come back and later say that he wouldn't literally hang people, or he wouldn't literally do all this, but this is the issue he's trying to assess, and I can agree that the gigantic gap between the super rich and the super poor is a problem. If people are dying on the streets from not being able to afford food, then yes, it's an issue. So it does need to be assessed, but revolution, how many times has that actually worked out to the benefit of the nation? short term, maybe it worked out okay. A lot of times when you do these big revolutions, big overturnings, and this is essentially a communist revolution because you're trying to take from the rich and distribute among the poor. Obviously, I'm overgeneralizing the word communist there. It's more like a Robin Hood kind of thing. But that often leads to the rise of a dictator, often leads to the rise of the Communist Party, really, and things affiliated with stuff like that. If you try to make it to where, well, there can't be a gap in wage, the rich guy's not going to make any more than the poor person, so who's going to start the businesses? The state's got to start the businesses. The state's got to own the businesses. You can't have someone... I mean, what's the incentive to get out there and work your butt off and start your own business if you're not going to make any more than the guy next to you? This guy's sitting over here picking his nose all day at work. Why would I stay late just to try to get the same amount of money as him? There's no reason. Some people have that self-drive. Some people have that self-determination. But the vast majority would just completely give up. There's no reason to be a neurosurgeon when you can work at McDonald's and make the same amount of money. But, I mean... Obviously, these are some exaggerations. Obviously, he is exaggerating here. I mean, it's all over the place. I honestly don't see how he goes about endorsing revolutions, and I don't think that's necessarily what he's trying to do, but that's how it comes across. I just don't get it.
Bill Gates earns more in an hour than like the average person earns in like a month. And it's probably even more than that. It's probably a ridiculous amount, and it's ridiculous. He doesn't nearly do the work required to justify that kind of money.
Yeah, but that brings us into another point that you had in the video there. The worth or the value of labor. You talked about a janitor. He wasn't worth more than a certain amount or whatever. Well, and then you said, why is the CEO worth more in terms of value? Remember that?
Yeah. I mean, what I was trying to say is, like, if we're actually looking at like someone's labor, and I understand that the value of the labor is determined by the market, but I don't think this is just a free market working as intended. You know,
okay.
And I think there are too many loopholes, too many ways of getting around having to do genuine actual work.
All right, so here Sargon goes on to talk about, Bill Gates earns a disproportionate amount of money compared to the amount of work he's done. Overall, I suppose. I'm going to have to fundamentally disagree with this. I think that the advances he made in software development and just... He alone has done more than just about anybody else in our lifetime as far as advancing us to the next era of technology. And... let's be honest, even if it wasn't him, even if he had a humongous staff supporting him, or even if there were other people out there doing the same thing as him, he was the one who marketed it best, and that's how it works. I mean, if you do better, if you were the one who made it, not only did you make it, but you were able to sell it. You were able to get other people to buy it. And the more people buy it, the more money he makes. That's how it works. And he was able to invest that money into his company, invest that money in diversify. I'm sure he's diversified his portfolio, but I mean, he's able to make money off of everything now because he has so much money. And I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. Yes, he has an absurd amount of money, but I mean, he's donated a lot of money to charity too. He's donated a lot of money to stuff. And that's not to say he couldn't have done more, he should have done less. I mean, it's hard to put a definitive quantity on what's too much. I mean, or what he should have done more, because he has contributed quite a lot to our not only our generation but the future generations to come to benefit from his previous advances. But not only that, you go to talk about the wage and how there are loopholes and how it's you understand how wages is determined by the economy and how it's stuff like that. But you don't go on to mention what those loopholes are. You don't say, okay, well, this is why people aren't competitive. This is why the market's not competitive in hiring people. And, I mean, you don't really state anything. You do later on say, well, I'm going to have to look into it more. And I get it. I appreciate the fact that you acknowledge it. But and I'm going to look at it from this direction. When I see the loopholes in the modern day systems, it's the government and how they don't tax things the right way, or how they give tax cuts for certain things, or how they have certain policies angling certain directions. And 9 times out of 10, it's the government who has created these fallacies and not being able to have an equal free market for everybody. It's not usually the companies. There have been times, plenty of times, where companies have found ways around it, but they're finding ways around government policies, stuff like that. I mean, it's not the company's fault. We got to change our government policies. We got to change how we tax things. We got to change what we give tax cut for. We have to change those kind of things. Not to mention that we have all these kinds of unions and whatnot to protect labor, and they haven't been as relevant nowadays, besides like the teachers union and stuff like that, as they had been in the past. But these unions do restrict a lot, and they do take a lot of money away from the union workers. And I think that we've come to a point in the free market economy where if we were to disintegrate some of these things and people were allowed to be hired and fired as necessary, we'd be in a much better place. Obviously, we do need protection for people when there's just a humongous economic downturn in certain industries. Like people in the oil industry who are getting laid off, they don't really deserve to just no longer have a job and no longer get paid to no fault of their own. It was an economic downturn. Yes, they should be expected to find a different field to pursue, or they should be able to find something else to do in the meantime until they can return to their field. But just a small amount of assistance between now and then is nice, but they don't need the humongous amount of stuff that they put out there, in my personal opinion. And I'm not authority on it either. But I feel like you're really walking into something and making these claims, and you're not even trying to validate them. You're just making the claim, no validation necessary. And once again, I get you're trying to, you're saying that later on that, oh, well, I'm going to have to look into it, or, oh, I'm going to do this. But you don't at least have a train of thought behind it, or at least have some logical reasons for believing or saying what you're saying, then I don't understand why you're saying it. You crucify people for doing that exact same thing, as I said earlier. But anyways, I think that's the last little snippet I'm going to show from this video. There were a lot of things in there that I skipped over, and there were some good points too, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to sit here and criticize the good points or try to glorify the good points either, because overwhelmingly, there was just so much stuff in there that was just out there. That I honestly didn't know that you believe that way, Sargon, and Undoomed, I'm kind of surprised you didn't call him out on it more than you did. There were a couple times where you refuted him, or you kind of angled things in a certain way, but you were very passive-aggressive about it, and that's very interesting to me, because that's not what I've seen in your previous videos. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I know this is very different than my usual video. I'd love to start doing more of these political and economic-based videos. I know that I don't exactly have the setup or the audience so that these big YouTubers have, so my voice is a little lower, but I think that I do have some opinions that would be worth listening to. I do have some facts to back up those opinions, and I would like to know what you guys think in the comments below. Was I unfair in this video? And if I was, I hope it doesn't mean anything bad towards them. I hope they don't take too offensively to it. I mean, this is very critical. I'm just trying to call you out and say, hey, this is not what you guys have done in the past. This is crazy. I hope you can recognize that. I do have a lot of respect for your channels. I have a lot of respect for the audience you managed to gather up. And anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys next time.